because we say to ourselves, oh, this is a perishable product, we're going to have waste, rather than saying, okay, how much waste can we actually strip out the system?
Some businesses look at innovation where they want to push automation through their business, but for us, improving upon food waste is critically important. We want to offer long-term local programs to the end consumer, and this is for retail and food service.
If we waste anything, it's ploughed back into the land, or my disposal costs aren't significant compared to my revenue, or it's my customer's fault, it's not our fault. Those are all excuses.
I think it's definitely valuable, and it's helping the industry focus on what innovation is needed.
Hi, and welcome to Produce Talks, the CPMA podcast. I am your host and CPMA Education Manager, Jason Gorley. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you to rate, subscribe, and review us on iTunes or the private podcast catcher of your choice. It'll help other people find the show. Also, if you haven't yet checked out our online learning, please check it out at elearning.cpma.ca. We have a Produce Basics program for new people in the produce industry and Produce Essentials for people with 2 to 5 years experience to expand their scope of knowledge within the industry. Before we get to this month's podcast, I'd like to bring in Selena to tell us all about this month's Fresh Health Award winner. Hi, Selena.
Hi, Jason. Thanks for having me again. I'm really excited to let you all know that the Fresh Health winner for November is Kim Hickman, who's a community dietitian up for the government of the Yukon. Kim reached out a while ago and had the Freggie curriculum adapted for her community and is using it in the school. And most recently, she coordinated for 10 schools up in the Yukon to run the Freggie Chef for a day. Congratulations, Kim, and what fantastic work you're doing up there. If you'd like to nominate someone for the Fresh Health Award, simply send me an email at skarkash@cpma.ca.
All right, on this month's podcast, waste is a word that not many people see as positive, but recently during a CPMA webinar, a message came across clearly that where there is waste, there is opportunity. Martin Goot from Value Chain Management International connects with us on this month's podcast for a deeper discussion on how examining waste can create opportunities for organizations. We also touch base with Brad Wiseman from EarthFresh about participating in the creation of a case study with Martin to improve crack-out operations for their premium potato facility. And here we go.
Value Chain Management International, I personally have been working in the area of continual process improvement from a whole of chain perspective, so right from production through to the consumer since 1999, and an important part of that work has been reducing waste. So capturing value by either reducing costs through addressing waste or creating consumer value, such as new packaging, new product, new supply processes, techniques.
Food waste is kind of a big part of the discussion now within industry, within government, even the public, and it's likely there's various misunderstandings about what the scope of food waste is. Could you explain what food waste is and the scope of what impacts food waste and factors which might consider addressing it?
So for us, food waste is the loss of food suitable for human consumption in its present form, such as a tomato, or food that's suitable for human consumption after processing or cooking, such as potatoes. The loss of those anywhere along the chain equals money and a financial opportunity that a business is losing out on.
So that could be right at the anywhere that the business handles it, but is that also at the consumer level?
The focus of this project was it related to consumer level through, for instance, improved packaging, improved processes, so to extend shelf life, for example. We didn't focus on consumer behavior. It was about the product, packaging, processes.
Gotcha. Okay. So food waste is the topic of the moment, but when you look at the topic for a company, specifically a produce company, this is kind of the tip of the iceberg, right?
That's exactly how we think of food waste. It's a symptom that is often the tip of the iceberg. Food loss and waste for us is a symptom that businesses can use to, like a trail of breadcrumbs, to identify where are there opportunities to improve processes And what improving those processes is how they achieve improvements in financial and operational performance. Food waste never occurs in isolation. There's always associated waste, whether that be labour, energy, transportation, infrastructure. There's always associated waste, and those wastes are often worth greater, considerably more to a company than the actual food itself.
So the reason behind the food waste is actually a greater cost to the company than the food waste itself.
Absolutely. And that's the approach we've been taking through the project and through our work in general. It's about use food waste as a way of making sure you are focusing your investments and efforts on areas of your business that will deliver significant, measurable improvement.
So you're talking about generating profit through finding efficiencies.
Yes, and those finding efficiencies through doing things effectively. And because, for example, I mentioned the first project I ever worked on in this type won the CL Prize for the world's best new fruit and vegetable product for 2002. That was a continual improvement project. And as part of that project, we reduced waste. But the root causes of that waste also impacted product quality, they impacted shipping, they impacted consistency. The benefits we achieved went way beyond waste reduction itself. It went into marketing, it went into how we work with growers, it went into consumer satisfaction. Many of those factors are all interconnected.
So in our discussion before this, you identified that typically produce tends to accept a higher amount of waste than other food value chains. How much profit is being left on the table that could be taken advantage of?
Our estimates show that it's not uncommon for a business to accept 10 to 20% lower level of financial performance than is possible because of the level of waste that our industry has deemed acceptable, because we say to ourselves, oh, this is a perishable product, we're going to have waste, rather than saying, okay, how much waste can we actually strip out the system?
You did a webinar for CPMA in October. The recording is available in the CPMA member area. In that webinar, you identified a number of statements that companies tend to make that either ignore or shift waste away from the company. I think this ties back to your last statement. So I'm wondering, do you find a lot of organizations aren't paying attention to this waste, or they're making I guess it's an excuse, but their reasons may not be as valid as they think they are?
Yes. So typical, if we go to a company during this project, those actual responses came up. It's like, oh, well, if we waste anything, it's ploughed back into the land, or my disposal costs aren't significant compared to my revenue, or it's my customer's fault, it's not our fault. Those are all excuses, and it also shows a culture of accepting waste. It comes back to what's your focus in your business. Ultimately, a business exists to create value at a lower cost that it takes to actually operate. And waste is we've proven it time and time again. By addressing waste, it enables you to achieve significant improvements in operating performance. And we've worked with businesses, for example, one of the businesses we work with, our colleagues work with in Australia, went from losing $20 million a year to making $30 million a year, so a $50 million shift over a 3-year period, by identifying what were the root causes of waste. When they actually found the root causes, they were endemic in the system. There's no way they were losing $50 million worth of product, but the overall impact on the business in terms of added labour, added energy, added packaging, for example, that was the key thing that made the difference.
So walk me through this for a second. So how does that conversation start? So a company doesn't think they have a problem, and yourself or another similar organization comes in and says, well, you have a problem here and we can help you create efficiencies. Is that how that conversation starts, or how does it work?
In the case of the processor I just mentioned, that was a case of, okay, you're losing money. You need to do something. So for them, our colleagues planned out the entire supply chain, right from production, the factors that went into the production of pineapples in this case, the factors that went into the production of pineapples, what determinants, determine business decisions, management decisions, such as where the pineapples were grown, how they were grown, why they were grown in a certain way, through to how they were handled, to the processing plant. What happened in the field, for example, determined what happened in the processing facility. And then how did that impact the money charged, the price charged to consumers and consumers' reactions? So it can start with, okay, you're losing money, you need to do something. Let's map out what's currently occurring and where opportunities exist to improve and where will we start. Or we ask, where are your challenges? Where do your challenges lie? What are the things that keep you awake at night? What are the undesirable effects that you like to address in your business? And then use that as the starting point. Key thing is to take bite-sized chunks. Don't try and do everything at once, because that will invariably fail. Take bite-sized chunk from your experience in your business can produce outcomes that benefit you as a business.
And now it's time to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms. We have Ray on the line. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Jason. With the holiday season fast approaching, it's time to start planning for the festive gatherings that abound this time of the year. With an abundance of sweets and family dinners to attend, there's no better way to treat your guests than by incorporating healthy eating into your party hors d'oeuvres and dessert plates. Start the festive season off with a bell pepper lentil dip or a plate of Tom's tomato crostinis. And don't worry, you'll be able to satisfy your guests' sweet tooth with a batch of chewy bell pepper oatmeal cookies. Nature Fresh Farms is here to help make your holiday season fresh and festive. Happy holidays from our family to yours. For these great recipes and others, please visit us at naturefreshfarms.ca.
Thanks, Ray. And now back to the conversation. One of the tools that you created was a problem statement worksheet, and it seems like a really simple tool. And it seems like when working through this problem statement worksheet, how does that help a company? Is it more just around creating a simple statement? Is it really around defining what the problem is? Is that the hard part?
Yes, it's about defining what the problem is and scoping things out so you undertake a bite-sized chunk, a bite-sized effort. So the whole concept behind the overall project and this tool being the starting point is plan, do, check, act. So this problem statement reflects that. What are you going to plan to do? What are you actually going to do to actually test what you've planned? How are you going to check it? So check it against targets. And then how you're going to implement it across the wider business. So the project charter, as you mentioned, is what's the current undesirable effect that you're experiencing in your business? And let's focus on one or two effects that may be related, they may not be related. But what are the key things that we're going to address? And then describe that. Put it in a concise statement that you can share with others that this is the problem. This is what we need to address and why. And then what's the objective? So is it, for instance, you've noticed that after a line changeover, there's a variability in packaging, in rejected packagings, or you've noticed certain days you'll have lower productivity than other days. Describe what your objective is going to be and what you're going to aim to achieve from the initiative, and scope it. Scope it geographically. You can, it might be just one line, one packaging line, for example, or one harvesting line, or one item. If you're a retailer, one item within the produce category. Scope it. That'll give you defined boundaries. And then how are you going to measure success? That could be in dollar terms. It could be in production terms. It could be as a percentage of overall production or overall cost. And then what are the potential savings you're looking to achieve? And we pretty much, you can't guarantee these types of things, but our general rule is you're going to be able to achieve more than you estimated you could. Such as, say, that pineapple processor, $50 million turnaround. If you'd have asked them beforehand, there's no way in the world they would have estimated that's their potential.
Okay, so it seems like there's a lot of opportunity here. So is just something that's just at the company level? Because it seems all about process improvement at the company level. Is there an opportunity for different governments to play a role in helping to reduce waste in general? Like how can governments encourage companies to take a look at food waste as a symptom and identify other sources of waste within their organization to help drive kind of national and provincial economies?
There's a number of ways that governments are say, encouraging, motivating businesses to address waste in different parts of the world. They range from landfill bans, for example, organic bans to landfill, which means it's harder to actually get rid of waste, which is itself an incentive, or increasing landfill taxes. That's a pretty hard and blunt instrument to use. I would say a more effective way is to say, for instance, okay, we will subsidise you to do your analysis based on you achieving outcomes. Development of case studies. Case studies always help because the businesses that are involved in the case studies receive proprietary information that is not shared because it's commercially sensitive. Generic information from the case studies is shared with the wider industry and says, these are the benefits that this company achieved. Because at the end of the day, it's about dollars and cents, and it's about capturing greater financial opportunities, whether that be reducing costs or increasing revenue that ultimately lead to improved margins and increased profitability. That's how we came to the topic of food waste. And the other way is governments aligning, making sure that regulations align, whether it be regulations at a federal level, regulations between the federal level and the provinces or states, getting those so they're congruent, they work with each other, they interact with each other. Too often we find government agencies essentially working against each other. And like we have cases, we've worked with businesses where it's actually it's as challenging for them to implement changes that lead to reductions in waste or emissions as it would be to actually increase the reductions or emissions, because they'll have moved outside the window that they agreed with a particular government department or inspector. We've got to be more constructive and adult and sophisticated in government's interactions and government and industry interactions in terms of both regulations and incentivizing business to continually innovate.
So really, it's everybody has to come to the table and work together on the solution for it.
Yes, and it's ultimately about enabling businesses to succeed, improve their profitability, improve their sustainability.
The study that you just completed, are there tools that have come out of it that people can use, and where should people go to kind of get more information on your case studies or worksheets, or even if they're just interested in learning more about waste in general?
So the case studies and an overview of the project are available on the OPMA's website, so Ontario Produce Marketing Association website. You can also go to our website, which is vcm-international.com. Yes, materials and the methods that we applied are available. And well on our website, so that vcm-international.com, there's a series of publications that we've produced over the last years on how to apply waste reduction initiatives and what they mean to a business.
Perfect. That's all the prepared questions that I had, but just to give you an opportunity, are there any last thoughts that you want to provide?
So there's few opportunities that businesses have today to increase their profitability by, say, 10-15%. Reducing waste, all manner of waste, and the benefits that come from addressing the processes that result in waste is one of those opportunities. We've seen it time and time again that up to between 10 and 20% of costs incurred by business are taken up with the hidden factory that produces waste. A ballpark figures that we've developed over the years of working with different businesses, for every 1% of shrink that you address, it equates typically to the equivalent of a 4% increase in revenue. It was estimated earlier this year that every $1 invested in reducing waste equates to a 14% increase or 14% return on investment.
That's pretty good return on investment.
Yeah. What we typically find, yes, there's higher levels of waste and missed opportunities in the produce industry compared to other industries, solely because we have this culture of accepting waste because we tell ourselves that this is a perishable product and therefore waste will always occur. Yes, there will always be a certain level of waste, but accepting waste rather than addressing it is merely an excuse.
And joining us on the phone, we have Brad Wiseman, who's the Chief Financial Officer for EarthFresh, who participated in the project with Value Chain Management International and OPMA. Brad, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So in this project, it was focused around identifying waste. Can you tell me a bit about why EarthFresh became involved and maybe how you became involved?
Well, we heard Bardet and VCM were working on, and this is one of key objectives in our sustainability program that we have been implementing at EarthFresh. Food waste is critical at all levels of the value chain, so we want to ensure that we improve upon it on the grower side and production side. With premium potatoes being a key focus for us, we knew that this is an area that we need to improve upon, and right now there is high waste. So we worked with Martin to analyze the data and the issues with food waste for the premium potatoes and discuss what sort of solutions we can implement for the long term. So we found it quite rewarding and productive, and we're trying to implement these solutions over the next few years.
The major output of this project from, the public perspective, I guess, was a case study that kind of collects what looks like best practices and opportunities that are pretty general. So I guess my assumption is that, one, there's a specific case study that you guys received, but also I guess the value is the participation is to reflect on your own practices as the process unfolded. Is that kind of correct?
I absolutely agree. When you do a case study, it allows you to focus on where your challenges, where your issues, and this highlighted where our issues were, which we already knew, but it focuses you to analyze the data and decide, okay, what improvements can you make in the short term and the long term? And again, in the area of focus for us were the small size premium potatoes, which is a key focus for us. So we knew that this was something that we need to deal with right away.
So how much of the value came from just taking the time to reflect on your company practices, and how much was it having that outside point of view that came in?
It's hard to put a percentage, but when you're working as a group where, VCM would facilitate the discussion and analysis, I think it goes hand in hand. So, it really was a group effort analyzing and discussing the issues. And then sometimes we would have external solutions come together. But when you start focusing on the data and the problems internally, then you start coming up with solutions. But we wouldn't really have not started focusing on it if it wasn't for the case study.
So working through it was kind of a bit of both, I guess you'd say.
I would say, again, it's hard to put on a percentage against it, but again, having VCM facilitate the analysis and the discussion, without having that, we would not have gotten to where we are today.
So food waste is a bit of a topic of the moment. It seems to be on everybody's radar. Governments, businesses, consumers even. Did the company view on waste change during the project? And if so, how is it different than it was before?
I don't think it changed. This was definitely one of our key objectives to drive innovation in our business. Some businesses look at innovation where they want to push automation through their business, but for us, improving upon food waste is critically important. We want to offer long-term local programs to the end consumer, and this is for retail and food service. And to do that, we need to minimize our food waste by offering better storage practices for all types of potatoes, specifically the premium potatoes. So this was definitely on our radar prior to this case study. Now, the key is knowing what all the issues are and implementing solutions over the short term and the long term.
EarthFresh isn't exactly a small operation, so how difficult was it to implement these changes to help drive these efficiencies?
Well, we haven't fully implemented all the changes. We have to have a plan. It is going to take going to take a few years to deal with it, because part of it is dealing with improving the process of growing, harvesting, and storing potatoes, and then packing potatoes. But over the long term, we want to implement more long-term storages that will minimize the food waste. So we're at the stage where we're slightly changing our process by just knowing all the issues and knowing what the solutions need to be. But to implement all the solutions, it's going to take a few years.
Looking back, was it a valuable exercise for EarthFresh? Well, yes, because you got these results. But I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add.
I think it's definitely valuable, and it's helping the industry focus on what innovation I think in the past, different parties, different associations, government thought that innovation was driven by automation and other efficiencies. But this is the key point that needs to be dealt with. Innovation has to focus on minimizing food waste, and that can be done through innovative storages and other technology that we're going to need to implement over the short term and long term.
By participating in the case study, it developed this general case study for your segment of the produce industry. So was there any hesitation with sharing that information?
Not at all. More people who are aware, the better.
And that's it. That's all that we have for you this month on Produce Talks. I'd like to thank Martin from Value Chain Management International, Brad from Earth Fresh, our sponsor, Nature Fresh Farms. I'm looking forward to trying those bell pepper cookies. Selena for letting us know about this month's Fresh Health Award winner and all that great work up in the Yukon. And I'd like to thank you for listening. Remember, I want to hear from you. I want to hear about the good things that we're doing. I want to hear about the bad things that we're doing. I want to hear about the stuff that we don't know about. You can email us at podcast@cpma.ca. That's podcast@cpma.ca. And also, you can rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or the podcast catcher of your choice. Until next time, gain new skills, keep learning, and never stop growing.
You will now be disconnected by the moderator.